The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. Yet in this moment, as we float on a pale blue dot suspended in a sunbeam, we find ourselves yearning not just to look up, but to understand. To pull the veil back from the great dark and ask not simply what is out there, but why does it matter? Above us, the night sky is not dark. It is ablaze with ancient messages, the light of 1 trillion stars, each a sun in its own right, each whispering stories across the unimaginable gulfs of time. Photons that began their journey before humanity lit its first fire now fall softly into our telescopes, telling us of the births and deaths of worlds we may never touch. Galaxies swirl in gravitational ballets, vast cities of stars drifting through the void, bound by unseen arms of dark matter. They collide, merge, and reform in silence. Their choreography plays out over billions of years, yet from Earth, with our instruments tuned like violins to the music of the heavens, we catch glimpses of this cosmic waltz frozen in frames of light. In the hearts of galaxies lie monsters, black holes of such gravity that not even light dares escape. And yet, paradoxically, they shine, not by their own doing, but by the matter they tear apart, heating gas and dust until it glows with a fury brighter than the combined light of their host galaxies. Quasars, beacons from the early universe whose flickering illuminates the very structure of space-time. We have discovered that the universe is expanding, not merely stretching, but accelerating, as if space itself is being pulled outward by some invisible force. Dark energy, we call it, though we do not know what it is. It dominates the cosmos, dictating its fate, and yet it eludes all our understanding. It is a ghost that surrounds us, and we are but whispers in its presence. Beyond the observable universe, that sphere of light that our instruments can detect, lies the unknowable, perhaps infinite, perhaps cyclic. Some theories suggest there may be other universes, each with different laws of physics, born from a bubbling foam of quantum possibilities. A multiverse. Not just stars and galaxies, but infinite realities stacked like pages in a book too vast for any mind to read. Even closer to home, we find marvels. The gas giants of our own solar system are not dead worlds. They are laboratories of extremes. Jupiter, with its colossal storms and magnetosphere so vast it could swallow all the planets. Saturn, whose rings, delicate and ancient, are but dust dancing to the rhythms of ice and gravity. Moons like Europa and Enceladus, with oceans beneath ice crusts, whisper of life that may stir in alien waters. We've sent machines to Mars, to Venus, to the outer planets and beyond. Each robotic emissary, a tiny ambassador of Earth, bringing back stories written in mineral and methane, in craters and clouds. These probes do not merely explore. They extend the reach of our collective curiosity, a testament to our desire to know the universe not as strangers, but as participants in its unfolding story. And yet, as we unravel the cosmos, the mystery deepens. For every answer, 10 more questions arise. Where did time begin? What lies beyond the final event horizon? Are we alone? Or are there minds adrift among the stars, watching, listening, waiting? Just as we are, the atoms in your hand were forged in the cores of ancient stars. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the carbon in your breath, all born in the fiery deaths of stars long gone. We are not visitors to the cosmos. We are its children. The universe is not out there. It is in us. This journey across billions of light years and billions of years is not simply about astronomy. It is about identity, about where we came from and where we might go. In the flicker of the northern lights, in the silence between stars, in the slow spin of distant galaxies, we find echoes of our own beginnings. Among the filaments of deep space, there exists a web, invisible yet undeniable. Galaxies trace its threads like dew upon a spider's silk. This structure, mapped by light and gravity, reveals a cosmos not chaotic, but intricately connected. A cosmic architecture far grander than any cathedral, spanning hundreds of millions of light years, shaped not by hands, but by the first tremors of creation. In the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, we read the first words of the universe's autobiography. The cosmic microwave background, radiation older than the oldest star, paints a picture of a universe newly born, expanding, cooling, stretching toward complexity. In those primal fluctuations, we find the seeds of everything, of galaxies, of planets, of us. Time, too, is a landscape, one we have only just begun to map. Einstein showed us that it bends and stretches, that it dances with gravity and speed. A clock on a mountaintop ticks faster than one in a valley. A traveler nearing light speed would age more slowly than those left behind. Time is not fixed. It is sculpted by the shape of space, and we are travelers upon its surface. Near pulsars, neutron stars spinning hundreds of times per second, time trembles. These dense remnants of supernovae emit beams of radio waves with such precision that we use them to measure cosmic distances. They are the ticking hearts of dead stars, still singing across the void. Elsewhere, rogue planets drift in the dark, untethered to any sun. They wander through interstellar space, cold and silent. And yet even these lonely worlds may harbor subsurface oceans, warmed by radioactive decay or tidal forces. In the silence, life may still whisper. Not as we know it, but life nonetheless. The search for life beyond Earth is no longer science fiction. It is science. We scan the atmospheres of exoplanets for traces of oxygen, methane, and water vapor. We listen to the static of the cosmos, hoping for an unnatural pattern. We build telescopes not just to see further, but to see finer, to catch the flicker of a city on a distant world, or the spectral signature of an ecosystem alien to our own. Somewhere, perhaps orbiting a distant red dwarf star, life has arisen in forms we cannot imagine. Creatures adapted to dim light, thick atmospheres, exotic chemistries. Their stories, if they exist, are written in molecules we have yet to name. Humanity stands at a threshold. We now possess the technology to leave our cradle, to step beyond our world and into the sea of stars. But the cosmos is not a destination. It is a mirror. In seeking it, we discover ourselves, our fragility, our brilliance, our hunger to understand. There are frozen comets in the Oort cloud, so far away that their orbits take millions of years to complete. There are stellar nurseries like the pillars of creation, where light itself is filtered through curtains of dust and stars are born from clouds of hydrogen like sparks leaping from an eternal flame. We are learning to read the language of the universe written not in letters, but in forces and fields, in particles and probabilities. Quantum mechanics shows us a reality that defies common sense, particles that exist in many states at once that communicate across space without traversing it. The cosmos is not merely vast, it is stranger than we dreamed. And in this vast strangeness, there is room for wonder, for humility, for awe. In the silence between radio waves, we wait. Giant dishes on remote mountain slopes sweep the heavens, listening to the hum of hydrogen, to the static of collapsing stars, to the mathematical regularity that might betray the presence of intelligence. The cosmos is vast, so vast that even silence speaks. If there is no one out there, then it falls upon us to become the voice in that void. But perhaps the message has always been there, encoded not in sound, but in structure. In the elegant consistency of physical laws, the ratios that never vary, the constants that hold fast across billions of light years. It is as if the universe is written in a dialect of logic, and the more we learn, the more it resembles something intelligible. Not random, not arbitrary, but deliberate. At the quantum level, particles blink in and out of existence as if reality itself were uncertain, a haze of probability collapsing into certainty only when observed. Observation creates definition. We do not merely witness the universe. In some subtle, profound way, we participate in it. What then is consciousness, if not the universe becoming aware of itself? We are stardust that dreams, matter that contemplates the nature of matter. Our thoughts are electrical storms in a neural sea, but they birth symphonies, mathematics, questions with no answers. The same carbon that forms diamond and soot now configures the mind's asking, why? Through gravitational lensing, we glimpse light that has been bent by invisible mass. Cosmic mirages revealing distant galaxies magnified and multiplied. Even gravity, once thought simple, now unveils hidden realms. Black holes not only devour, they may lead to elsewhere. Perhaps to other regions of space-time. Perhaps to nothing. Perhaps to origins. We model the birth of time itself in simulations, moments after the Big Bang, when forces that now seem distinct were one. A time before separation, when gravity, electromagnetism, and the nuclear forces were fused in a singular state. From that unity sprang diversity. From simplicity, complexity. In laboratories on Earth, particle accelerators recreate the heat of creation, smashing protons at near-light speeds. These tiny collisions echo with ancient violence. They illuminate what once was and what may be again, in the final breath of the cosmos, or in the birth of another. Some theorists speak of a big rip, a future in which dark energy tears space itself apart. Others propose a big bounce, where the universe contracts and is born anew. Each scenario speaks not only to the mechanics of existence, but to its rhythm. Even the universe may have a heartbeat. On the scale of planets, Earth is ordinary. One rocky world among billions. But here, water exists in all its forms. Here, molecules have assembled into minds, and those minds have asked about other minds. We are the singular known case of awareness amid entropy, and that makes us rare beyond measure. The auroras shimmer at our poles, not merely beautiful, but a testament to magnetic fields protecting fragile life from cosmic rays. The moon stabilizes our tilt. Jupiter deflects deadly comets. Coincidence? Or a precondition for biology as we know it? And still, the mysteries deepen. What is the nature of time before time? Is the universe one of a kind, or is it but a bubble in a foam of eternal inflation? Are we destined to explore, or only to imagine? The sky is not the limit. It is the invitation. We stand on the edge of a revolution in perception. With each new generation of instruments, space telescopes orbiting above the blur of our atmosphere, interferometers stretching across continents, we refine our senses, sharpening the clarity with which we behold the ancient light. Soon, we will gaze directly into the atmospheres of Earth-sized worlds orbiting alien suns. We will not just detect them, we will dissect them molecule by molecule. Methane, ozone, chlorophyll's subtle red edge. Clues not of geology, but of life. We may not yet travel across the stars, but light travels for us. Every photon that reaches our eyes is a courier from a distant past. The tools we use are extensions of ourselves: mirrors, lenses, quantum sensors. They are as much expressions of our imagination as they are instruments of science. They allow us to decode the universe not as a mystery locked away, but as a puzzle with pieces scattered across time. In orbit, space stations drift like seed pods, fragile, temporary, yet significant. They are not destinations, but rehearsals. Testbeds for a species learning to breathe beyond its cradle. The dream of Mars is no longer distant. We design habitats, grow plants in regolith, simulate Martian gravity. One day, human footsteps will press into crimson dust beneath a salmon sky. Yet as we reach outward, we must also look inward. Consciousness, the very faculty that asks these questions, remains one of the deepest enigmas of all. What mechanism transforms neurons into self-awareness? And is it unique to carbon, to biology, or could awareness arise from silicon, from circuits arranged with enough subtlety? If we build minds, will they look back at the stars with the same wonder? Will they ask, as we do, what am I and why? Time moves in one direction, but the universe may not. Entropy governs the arrow of experience, order dissolves, heat disperses, stars cool. Yet amid this drift towards simplicity, we build complexity. Life writes memory into matter. A symphony played once, but never forgotten. Cosmic rays rain down constantly, high-energy particles from the depths of the galaxy, perhaps from supernovae or even more exotic engines. They pass through our bodies, unnoticed, like messengers bearing stories of distant cataclysms. They are history in motion, and we, though unaware, are their witness. Somewhere, perhaps, a species evolved not under a yellow sun but beneath the flickering dance of a pulsar. Their eyes tuned to frequencies we cannot hear. Their senses shaped by different physics. Their myths orbiting concepts unfamiliar to us. Yet their questions, perhaps, are the same. Even gravity, the force that binds galaxies and holds us to the Earth, is a mystery still unfolding. We describe its curvature, its wells and warps, yet its true essence remains elusive. Is it a field, a particle, an emergent phenomenon? Does it leak into dimensions we cannot see? And what of dimensions? Are the three we know all that exist? String theory whispers of extraspatial folds, curled tighter than atoms, invisible but vital. A deeper structure beneath the visible stage. We live, perhaps, not on a canvas, but in a tapestry. The deeper we look, the less alone we feel. Not because we've found others, but because we see more clearly how deeply we are a part of everything. Not passengers in this universe, but participants in its becoming. Across time's endless corridor, civilizations may have risen and fallen. Unnoticed, unrecorded, erased not by malice, but by the sheer indifference of cosmic scale. Their stars have grown old, their monuments atomized by erosion or fire. If they ever broadcast their presence, the signal may still be on its way, a ghost wandering the galactic spiral, just now brushing past Earth, unnoticed in the cosmic noise. There are theories, unsettling and profound, of filters, great boundaries that life must pass through to survive. Some filters may lie behind us. The origin of life, the leap to complexity, the emergence of intelligence. Others may still await us in our future. Technological self-destruction, ecological collapse, silence not from absence, but from failure. And yet we endure. For now, the human brain, 3 pounds of matter, a network of neurons more numerous than the stars in the local cluster, is perhaps the most complex object we've yet encountered in the universe. And it dares to simulate the universe itself, to imagine black holes and quasars and the trembling fabric of space-time, to compress billions of years into an equation or into a single thought. We've begun encoding information into light, into the spin of electrons, into entangled particles separated by kilometers. We speak in quantum tongues now, whispering across distances with perfect secrecy. The boundaries of communication blur. Thought itself may one day be digitized, uploaded, preserved, shared across solar systems like software drifting between worlds. Some dream not of rockets, but of consciousness traveling at the speed of signal, where the vessel is not the body, but the mind itself, encoded in photons, transmitted across the stars to awaken in a new biomechanical shell under a new sun. Perhaps the first true interstellar traveler will not be a ship, but an idea, And while we dream of other worlds, Earth still spins, blue, fragile, singular. Every spacecraft ever launched departs from its embrace. Every message we beam into the sky carries traces of its air, its languages, its hopes. Our entire history is inscribed in the electromagnetic shell expanding outward at light speed, a radio echo of civilization washing through the galaxy. The cosmic background neutrinos, ancient particles from the first second of the universe, drift through everything, through us unhindered. Remnants from a time so early, so dense, that matter and energy were inseparable. They passed through Earth, unaware of its mountains and oceans. They are as old as time itself. They are the breath of the beginning. Mathematics, too, is a mystery. Why does the language of logic describe reality with such precision? Equations birthed in imagination on chalkboards predict particles that later appear in detectors. Are we discovering truth or inventing a mirror that only reflects our own structures? The future, like a star just over the horizon, sends its light before it arrives. We sense its pull. Terraforming, Dyson swarms, artificial suns, minds that live in swarms of satellites orbiting brown dwarfs, thinking thoughts a million times faster than ours. We may become something we can scarcely imagine, not post-human, but post-biological, post-temporal. But no matter how far we reach, we remain rooted in wonder. For even now, on quiet nights, we still look up, past the satellites, past the planets, past the veil of atmosphere, and into the deep, black cathedral of space. There, a photon may fall into the eye of a child born in the core of a star that exploded before mammals walked the Earth. And in that single spark, a question ignites. In the farthest reaches of theoretical physics, we encounter a boundary not of distance, but of comprehension. There are ideas so vast, so abstract, they strain the limits of metaphor. Concepts like the holographic principle, which suggests that our three-dimensional universe may be a projection, that the true reality lies etched on a distant, two-dimensional boundary like shadows cast from a fire we cannot see. If true, then everything, galaxies, planets, even ourselves, may be the echo of information inscribed on the edge of the cosmos. Not less real, just differently real. The universe becomes not a place, but a computation and unfolding logic written in the syntax of space-time. Even now, we wonder, is the cosmos conscious of itself in more ways than we can detect? Could awareness arise not only in neural networks, but in patterns of matter and energy on vast scales? Does intelligence require biology or merely complexity and time? There are stars magnet-Rs so dense that a single teaspoon of their material would outweigh a mountain and whose magnetic fields can distort atomic orbitals. They rotate violently, releasing bursts of gamma radiation powerful enough to sterilize planets across light years. These are not stars as we know them, but cosmic beacons of fury and silence. Beyond them lie voids, great, empty expanses between galaxy clusters where hundreds of millions of light-years stretch without a single star. These are the deserts of the universe, cold and black, where even the oldest light begins to fade. And yet, even here, the whisper of quantum fields persists. The universe is never truly empty. It breathes in fluctuations too subtle to see. Cosmic inflation, the brief, exponential bloom of space in the first moments after the Big Bang, may have generated not one universe, but countless. A foam of realities, each with its own constants, particles, perhaps even time itself flowing differently. We may live in just one bubble, suspended in an infinite ocean of possibility. And if so, then our cosmos is not the universe, but a universe. In this plurality, we are both infinitesimally small and profoundly rare, a self-aware fragment glimmering for a moment before returning to silence. But that moment matters, because within it we create meaning. Art, memory, story. These are the architectures of mind, built not from stone or steel, but from time. Each human life is a data stream of experiences filtered through emotion, memory, and perception. When we love, grieve, or wonder, we do more than survive, we resist entropy. We craft order from chaos, even if only for a while. Time will move forward. Stars will exhaust their hydrogen, becoming embers, white dwarfs fading into black. Galaxies will stretch farther apart until their light no longer reaches one another. In the final epochs, even black holes will evaporate particle by particle, leaving only a thin mist of radiation diffusing through infinite darkness. This is the so-called heat death, not an explosion, but a slow sigh. A cosmos grown old, settled into perfect stillness. No light, no structure, no memory. And yet, even this is a story worth telling, because it reminds us of the extraordinary improbability of now. Of this age, when stars burn and planets cradle oceans and minds like ours can think beyond instinct. We are the brief interval between origin and extinction, the bridge between dust and silence. And in this breath, we listen. We ask. We reach. Some physicists speculate that information is never truly lost, not even within the grasp of a black hole. That every particle devoured, every photon pulled past the event horizon leaves behind a fingerprint, encoded somehow in the boundary of the whole itself. If true, then nothing is ever truly erased. Reality does not forget. The cosmos remembers in ways we've yet to decipher. This leads to an even stranger idea that the universe itself may be a vast archive. A memory system on a scale beyond comprehension, where stars are punctuation, black holes are ciphers, and light itself is a courier of experience. What we call existence might be a form of preserved computation, the cosmos thinking itself into permanence. Far from the warmth of any sun, brown dwarfs drift like failed stars, massive enough to smolder, not massive enough to ignite. In their twilight glow, elements fuse slowly and atmospheres swirl with exotic chemistry. These forgotten worlds are not empty. They are quiet laboratories where physics writes poetry without witness. Even smaller, colder, the Kuiper Belt, and beyond it, the scattered disk, vast reservoirs of ice and rock, undisturbed since the beginning. Trillions of frozen objects orbiting in silence, their surfaces scarred by time but unchanged. Here, in the outer darkness, we find time capsules untouched by planetary geology or atmosphere, relics of the solar system's birth. In some models, time is not linear but layered. Not a line, but a tapestry. Events do not merely follow one another. They overlap. They resonate. There may be echoes of the future hidden in the present, or shadows of the past that never truly faded. And if time can be bent, can memory itself stretch across it? Could the universe be haunted not by ghosts, but by futures? On the edge of visibility, we find cosmic strings, theoretical defects in space-time, thinner than an atom, longer than a galaxy. If they exist, they are remnants of symmetry broken in the early universe. They would slice through the cosmos like invisible violin strings, vibrating with unimaginable energy. They may be rare, or they may be everywhere, hidden in plain sight. Even the fundamental constants of nature, the speed of light, Planck's constant, the strength of gravity, might not be constant at all. Some theories suggest they shift subtly across space and time. If so, then physics is not carved in stone, but alive, evolving. And reality, far from static, may be in flux. Somewhere, a supervoid stretches for over 1 billion light-years, a region inexplicably emptier than models predict. Not just the absence of galaxies, but the absence of structure itself. It is not merely a gap, it is a question. One that whispers of unknown forces or forgotten beginnings. And still we wonder, could the universe itself be alive in a way we have not yet defined? Not conscious in the way we are, but self-organizing, self-renewing. A breathing, expanding phenomenon, seeking equilibrium through creation and collapse. The ancients mapped constellations into stories, Orion, Andromeda, Draco. They did not know what stars were made of, but they knew they mattered. In their myths, the sky was a message, Perhaps they were not wrong. Perhaps myth was our first language for truths too vast to test. Before equations, there was metaphor. And even now, with our accelerators and observatories, we still speak in symbols, in models, in metaphors of fields and waves and hidden dimensions. Science does not destroy wonder, it refines it. And we, the ones who ask, we are its voice. Somewhere in the invisible lattice of the quantum vacuum, there may exist symmetries so perfect, they predate particles. Before charge, before spin, before time itself began its long descent into direction, there may have been balance, flawless and total. Symmetry not as ornament, but as origin. As the universe cooled from its incandescent birth, these symmetries fractured. Like ice forming on the surface of a lake, they cracked and split, giving rise to the diversity of forces, the emergence of matter, the birth of structure. Every asymmetry in the universe, every motion, every change may be the residue of that first rupture. Imperfection, it turns out, is what makes everything move. In deep mathematics, we find elegance. Equations that govern electromagnetism, gravity, thermodynamics, not brute mechanisms, but graceful truths. That beauty aligns so often with function remains one of the great mysteries. The universe, it seems, is not just comprehensible, it is artful. There is a quiet idea in cosmology that every law of physics we observe is merely local. That the universe, vast beyond comprehension, may hold regions where logic itself folds differently, where causality flows another way, or light behaves like matter, or time forms loops. Not just different conditions, but different realities entirely. To travel far enough, then, might be to leave behind not only home, but physics as we know it. Within the core of neutron stars, matter is compressed into a form we can scarcely imagine. Quarks, the fundamental building blocks of protons and neutrons, may dissolve into a strange soup, quark matter, or perhaps an exotic state known only as strange matter. In these ultra-dense realms, the very concept of solid or liquid ceases to apply. There is only pressure and balance and the quiet resistance of space-time against collapse. There are equations suggesting that, under extreme rotation, a black hole might become something else. Not a point, but a ring. A torus of infinite density leading not to death, but to elsewhere. A naked singularity unconcealed by event horizons. A door with no frame. Such objects, if they exist, violate our laws. But the laws, after all, are only as strong as the limits we've tested. The universe may hold exceptions, deliberate, violent, rare, that remind us we are still learning the alphabet of creation. We peer into the anisotropies of the cosmic microwave background, minute variations in temperature, 1 part in 100,000, and from those ripples we infer everything. How galaxies clumped, how stars formed, how atoms themselves cooled into being. The oldest light tells us not just what the universe is, but what it was becoming. Between gravity and quantum mechanics lies an unexplored ocean. A grand unification waits, elusive, beautiful, perhaps unattainable. General relativity describes the cosmos on the largest scales, quantum theory governs the tiniest. And yet, when they meet in black holes, in the Big Bang, they rebel. A deeper theory sleeps beneath them both unnamed. And there are hints, glimmers, loop quantum gravity, string theory, twist of space, non-commutative geometry. Mathematical phantoms that may one day rise to solidify our understanding, or vanish, like mist touched by light. And still, the sky turns. Saturn's rings cast shadows onto its cloud tops. Titan, shrouded in haze, rains methane onto rivers of ethane. The sun hums with magnetic storms, coronal mass ejections arcing across space, brushing Earth with auroras. Every corner of our solar system is alive with motion, charged with purpose, tuned to ancient rhythms. And at the heart of it all, silence. Not emptiness, not absence, but the silence of deep structure, the stillness from which all sound is born. There exists a concept in theoretical physics, the vacuum catastrophe, an unresolved discrepancy between what quantum field theory predicts the vacuum energy should be and what we observe in the expansion of the universe. The difference, a factor of 10 superscript 1 superscript 2. No other mismatch in science is so vast. It is not merely a miscalculation, it is a riddle inscribed into the very scaffolding of existence. This empty space, this vacuum, is not truly empty. It boils with virtual particles, flickering in and out of being, borrowing energy from nothing, then vanishing before they are seen. These ephemeral phenomena shape everything. They influence gravity, define mass, and may even be responsible for the very structure of atoms. What we call nothing is densely packed with potential. It is here, in the quantum foam, that some believe wormholes may be born, tiny, fluctuating bridges between distant points in space-time. Most evaporate before they stretch wide enough for even a photon to cross. But perhaps somewhere, one persists, a corridor through the void, stitched together by the mathematics of the improbable. Beyond the veil of direct observation, we contemplate the possibility of axions, hypothetical particles so light, so weakly interacting, that trillions may pass through your body every second without leaving a trace. They may comprise dark matter, the unseen scaffolding of galaxies. Entire halos of invisible mass, shepherding stars, shaping motion. Present, undeniable, and yet undetected. And what of time itself? We treat it as a river, flowing ever forward. But physics suggests it is more like a landscape, unchanging with past, present, and future laid out in full. Our movement through it is perception, not process. All moments may exist at once. We are not riding time, we are illuminating it. One slice at a time, like a flashlight scanning across a sculpture too vast to hold in view. Elsewhere, cosmologists model baby universes budding off from black holes. In such models, a singularity is not an end, but a seed. Every black hole may spawn a new cosmos with its own laws, its own time, its own structure. We might inhabit such a descendant, our own Big Bang, the final breath of another universe. On the other end of scale, we study biological systems and begin to see universal patterns. Self-similarity, emergent order, feedback loops. Galaxies swirl like hurricanes. Neurons echo cosmic filaments. There is no dividing line between the organic and the cosmic, only variation in scale and density. Perhaps life is not an accident within the universe. Perhaps life is a natural function of it. Every element heavier than helium, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, was forged inside the hearts of stars. But beyond iron, fusion cannot proceed. Heavier elements require violence. Supernovae, neutron star collisions. The gold in our rings, the uranium in our cores, the iodine in our blood, all born of cataclysm. We are not merely made of stars, we are shaped by their death throes. Still further out, we encounter the Great Attractor, a gravitational anomaly drawing galaxies toward it at immense speed. Its mass is unknown, its nature obscured behind the zone of avoidance, a region of the sky hidden by the plane of the Milky Way. We feel its pull, but we do not yet see it. The universe still withholds its face, and yet we persist. We chart exoplanets by the trembling of starlight, the dimming of transits, the wobble of orbits. We map gravitational waves from colliding black holes, ripples in spacetime itself, detected by instruments sensitive enough to notice distortions smaller than a proton. We decode relic neutrinos, born seconds after the Big Bang, still drifting and scathed by matter. This is what it means to be human, to sense what is beyond our grasp and reach anyway, to build cathedrals of knowledge in our brief time here, carved not from stone, but from questions. And in doing so, we do not conquer the cosmos. We become part of its unfolding. It is possible that mathematics is not merely a tool to describe the universe, but its native language. That at the heart of all things, before atoms, before light, before even time, there are ratios, patterns, symmetries. Perhaps reality itself is an expression of pure number, a cosmic theorem unfolding across space-time. Somewhere in the silence between galaxies, the Fibonacci sequence traces the arcs of spiral arms. The golden ratio hides in orbital resonances. Primes govern the spacing of pulses from distant pulsars. The universe does not shout its logic, it whispers in spirals, in cycles, in the subtle rhythms of emergence. Even chaos, it seems, has structure. The orbits of planets are not perfect ellipses, but perturbed dances, sensitive to the presence of every other mass in the solar system. This sensitivity, the butterfly effect, means that long-term prediction is impossible. And yet, out of this instability, stability emerges. Not by force, by balance. Some believe this balance is not coincidental. That the universe is fine-tuned, the strengths of forces, the masses of particles, the dimensionality of space, all fall within an infinitesimally narrow range that allows complexity, chemistry, consciousness. Shift a constant by a fraction and the stars would never form, or would collapse in an instant. It raises the question, is this the only universe? Or is it one of many in which we simply find ourselves in the one that allows observers? Anthropic reasoning, controversial, elegant, incomplete. Across the surface of Europa, long fractures stretch for thousands of kilometers. Beneath the ice, an ocean, warm, salty, global. Heated not by sunlight, but by the tidal kneading of Jupiter's gravity. In the darkness, life may linger, blind, pressure-born, ancient. If so, it would know nothing of stars, but it would still be part of the same universe. And that universe may itself be a living thing, not in the biological sense, but in its capacity to self-organize, to generate novelty, to evolve. Galaxies birth stars. Stars forge elements. Elements become planets. And sometimes, rarely, planets become aware. Each stage is a recursion, a deepening, a mirror facing inward. There are theories of information panspermia that life, or at least the code for life, could travel not via spores or ships, but as compressed data in cosmic radiation. DNA may be just one expression of a universal syntax. If so, the universe may already be seeded with potential, waiting for conditions to blossom into thought. The multiverse may not be spatial. It may be modal. Each quantum decision branches into a new history. Every measurement a fork. Every mind an explorer of one line among countless. The cosmos, then, becomes not a single expanding sphere, but an ever-branching tree of realities, with every moment a node. And yet we experience only one. The uniqueness of experience of now is the great mystery of subjectivity. Why this moment? Why this angle of perception? Perhaps consciousness collapses the field of potential into particularity. Perhaps we are not just within the universe, perhaps we are its lens. In this light, music becomes something more than art. It becomes a structure, one that transcends biology. Patterns in time, ratios of frequencies, vibrations that resonate not just with the ear, but with the structure of matter itself. Music may be, quite literally, the sound of symmetry passing through flesh. If we ever meet another civilization, we may not share chemistry. We may not share atmosphere or pressure or color, but we may share mathematics. We may share harmony. A Bach fugue, a hydrogen spectrum, a pulsar's rhythm, these may be our first words. Because before there were languages, there was resonance. It has been proposed that the universe is not merely a place where computation happens, but that it is computation. Every interaction, every exchange of energy, every collapse of a wave function may be a step in a vast natural algorithm. Not programmed, but emergent. not constructed, but inevitable. In this view, particles are not objects but informational states. Fields are not continuous media but underlying codes. Reality, then, is not made of stuff, but of logic unfolding. And if the universe is a computation, then time is not flow, it is sequence. Not a river, but a ticking of an unfathomable cosmic processor, advancing frame by frame, equation by equation. But who or what reads the output? Some suggest that the very act of being is observation, that to exist is to be witnessed, even if the witness is the system itself. Consciousness in this formulation is not an accident, but a fundamental process, inseparable from the machinery of space-time. Could this explain the observer effect? The collapse of the quantum wave function when measured? Perhaps the universe requires observation not as a passive condition, but as a participatory act. Perhaps existence is incomplete without awareness. The philosophers question, if a tree falls in a forest with no one to hear it, does it make a sound? Maybe more than metaphor. It may point towards something deeply woven into the quantum fabric, that without relationship there is no reality. Further still lies the concept of the cosmic horizon, not a limit in distance, but in knowledge. The expansion of the universe accelerates so rapidly that regions of space are receding from us faster than light. Not because they move, but because space itself stretches. Beyond that horizon, there are galaxies we will never see, not even in principle. They will remain forever hidden, their light permanently outpaced by the growing void. And yet, they exist. They move. They evolve. Whole histories, civilizations, perhaps rise and fall beyond the reach of all contact. They are real, but forever lost to us. The universe contains secrets it will never share. And perhaps so do we. Within the human mind are regions yet unmapped, not because we lack tools, but because we lack concepts. Consciousness does not lie neatly along the folds of cortex or in the chemistry of neurotransmitters. It hovers between. It may be an emergent resonance, a self-sustaining echo between perception and memory, between sensation and imagination. Could it be that consciousness itself bends the laws around it? That complexity, once it passes a certain threshold, exerts not only will, but influence on the unfolding probabilities of matter? This leads to another heretical thought. What if reality isn't singular? What if each act of perception births a temporary scaffold, a private microcosm nested within the larger? A personal space-time continuously rewritten as the self moves forward? In such a view, the universe does not exist as one totality, but as a foam of experiential frames, intersecting, overlapping, diverging. And yet, for all this multiplicity, we share the illusion of continuity. The moon rises for all of us. The stars return in cycles. Gravity never forgets. This consistency, this reliability may be the handhold that lets fragile minds like ours climb the walls of incomprehensible immensity. It is the repetition of starlight that allowed astronomy, the predictability of matter that birthed chemistry, the constancy of cause and effect that made life possible. But beyond the constancy, we are beginning to see the tremors, the flickers, the edges where chaos leaks through the mesh. And perhaps that's where the next frontier begins. There are those who propose that what we perceive as waking life may itself be a simulation, not in the crude digital sense, but as an emergent dream of a system vast beyond comprehension. That consciousness is not a product within reality, but the substrate beneath it. What if the universe is not the container of experience, but the content of it? Dreams, after all, simulate. In dreams, we build cities, recall voices, invent time. And when we awaken, they vanish, yet for their duration they were. Our minds conjure gravity, color, light, without photons, without mass. If such worlds can arise nightly in a kilogram of gray matter, what might arise in the architecture of space-time itself? Perhaps what we call the real is not more solid than a thought. Perhaps it persists only because it is shared, synchronized across minds by mutual agreement, by symmetry, by rhythm, by resonance. And maybe resonance is the key. Resonance binds matter into molecules. It defines color. It sculpts sound. In physics, it drives orbital mechanics. In biology, it forms the basis of neural oscillations, the hum of thought. Even galaxies resonate, spirals carved from gravitational harmonics. Could it be that consciousness itself is a tuning, a specific pattern of resonance that allows awareness to emerge from the static? In that light, we are not made of atoms. We are made of their song. Elsewhere, theorists explore the mirror symmetries of the universe, CPT symmetry, time reversal, parity. What if, beyond the observable cosmos, there exists a counterpart, an anti-universe moving backward in time, governed by opposite charges, where entropy decreases and cause follows effect in reverse? A mirror not only in matter, but in logic. Perhaps the Big Bang was not a beginning, but a collision, a meeting of brains, multidimensional membranes, floating in higher dimensional space. When they intersect, energy erupts into new universes, like ripples in a higher ocean. Ours may be one of many, each born not in isolation, but in interaction. We imagine dimensions curled so tightly they evade detection. Tiny loops embedded in every point of space. Their topology may determine the properties of particles. The charge of an electron, the spin of a neutrino. What we observe as traits may be shadows cast by the shape of the unseen. And through it all runs information, not as metaphor but as essence. Black holes do not simply absorb, they encode. The information of everything that falls in is preserved, perhaps smeared across the event horizon, preserved in subtle quantum correlations. A galaxy could be swallowed, and yet its pattern would remain, trapped in warped geometry, indestructible. Memory may be more fundamental than mass. So what is a human? We are bodies, yes, electrochemical machines born of dust and water. But we are also informational architectures, patterns refined by time, by experience, by memory. When we love, grieve, create, we change those patterns. And perhaps, on some scale, the universe remembers. Maybe the permanence we seek is not in stone or fame, but in how we've shifted the equation. In the slight change in probability caused by a choice, a kindness, a thought. In the trace we leave in the wavefront of reality as it passes. And so, even as the stars fade and the galaxies drift apart, and entropy climbs toward its quiet peak, something may remain. Not form, not fire, but meaning, etched not in matter but in the structure of what was possible and what was chosen. Perhaps the universe is not an object, but a sentence. Not static, but grammatical, unfolding in time like meaning shaped through breath. Galaxies as clauses, quarks as syllables, forces as syntax, and perhaps what we call laws are not absolute decrees, but recurring patterns in the way this sentence prefers to be spoken. If so, then we, sentient, reflective, are punctuation. Pauses in which the cosmos listens to itself. There's a hypothesis that time may not be a dimension at all, but an emergent phenomenon, a byproduct of entanglement of correlations between quantum states. In that view, the flow of time is not real, only perceived. An illusion that arises because our consciousness cannot hold the entire configuration at once. We see slices, frames, but the film was always there, beginning to end. This would mean that the future already exists, that every moment is already laid out like ink on the page of a book we haven't finished reading. That freedom, as we understand it, is not the ability to choose the story, but the ability to experience it fully. Still, even illusions shape reality. We act as though time moves, and so we build, we grieve, we remember. Our myths, our sciences, our technologies, they are all born from this great misunderstanding. But it is a fruitful one. It gives rise to language, to urgency, to art, to the hunger for discovery, to the ache of mortality. Without it, there would be no music, only sound. No story, only structure. It may be that awareness is the only truly irreversible phenomenon, that consciousness leaves an imprint on the quantum sea. When we look at something, we alter it, not only in position, but in potential. Observation is not passive. It's creative. The ancient idea that the universe dreams itself might not be poetic fiction, it might be the most accurate metaphor we've ever devised. Not that it has a dreamer, but that dreaming is what it does. A self-organizing hallucination, a recursive imagining, and its vivid moment of recognition. The word reality once meant that which resists. The rock, the star, the law. But now we find that resistance is relative. Matter is mostly space. Solidity is electromagnetic illusion. Even causality can bend in frames where simultaneity dissolves. Perhaps true reality is not that which resists, but that which endures pattern. And pattern is everywhere. The neural firing of the octopus, the hexagonal storms of Saturn, the filaments between galactic clusters, the sleep rhythms of hibernating bears, the repeating cry of a pulsar echoing through dark matter, patterns nested within patterns, not copies, but rhymes. Even decay follows structure. Radioactive elements do not fade randomly, they follow half-lives exact and measurable. A dance of disintegration that obeys rules deeper than atoms. The very process of becoming dust has music in it. And perhaps when the universe finally cools, when the last black hole evaporates, when the last proton decays, what remains will not be emptiness, but a residue of coherence. A trace of the story, not in light, not in space, but in symmetry. A silent imprint, a memory without a witness. A stillness so complete it no longer requires time. There is a theory that at the smallest conceivable scale, the Planck-length space is not continuous, but granular. That what we perceive as smoothness is, in truth, a mosaic of discrete units. The fabric of the cosmos may not be cloth, but code. A network of interconnected bits. Loops, links, transitions. If so, then space is not a void between things. It is a thing itself, quantized, alive with possibility. The distance between 2 points is not a line, but a sequence. Every step is a choice the universe makes. This granular structure may hum with fluctuations like the quiet static between radio channels, a noise not of interference, but of potential. Perhaps that's what gives rise to quantum uncertainty, not ignorance, but irreducible ambiguity, a property of reality itself. And if space is quantized, perhaps time is too. Perhaps there is no such thing as a true instant, only transitions, pulses, ticks. The now is not a point, but a rhythm. A beat played out by the universe's deepest metronome. We might not live in time, we might be time. A process rather than a substance. A verb rather than a noun. Elsewhere in the theoretical landscape, physicists have begun asking whether gravity, that most familiar and yet most mysterious of forces, is not a force at all, but an illusion, a byproduct of entropy, a statistical consequence of information-seeking equilibrium. In this view, things fall not because they are pulled, but because the universe prefers configurations of higher probability. Motion becomes thermodynamic. Direction emerges from statistics. The apple drops because in a world governed by entropy, that is simply the most natural outcome. This reimagining shifts gravity from fundamental to emergent, not a pillar of reality, but a shadow cast by deeper truths. And the deeper we dig, the stranger it becomes. There are hypotheses that the total energy of the universe is zero. That all the positive energy, matter, motion, radiation is perfectly cancelled by the negative energy of gravity. If true, then the entire cosmos could have arisen from a fluctuation of nothing. Not as metaphor, as literal statement, a zero so complete it gave birth to everything. Even the idea of location may not be fundamental. In quantum entanglement, particles separated by galaxies exhibit instant correlation. It is as though distance does not apply, as though location is a secondary effect, not a starting point, but a product of relationship. Reality, then, may be relational, a matrix of dependencies. Nothing exists on its own. Everything is context. And so we return to ourselves. The self, that flickering constellation of memories, impulses, projections, is not fixed. It shifts with time, language, and biology. It is an emergent identity, not a solid entity. The I we cling to may be more like weather than stone. A pattern, not a core. Yet within that pattern is continuity. A thread of witness that we cannot fully define but deeply recognize. We are more than computation. We are narrative. Perhaps the universe, too, is telling itself a story. Not for meaning, not for outcome, but for movement. A story that began with symmetry and fracture, that flowed through fusion, turbulence, chemistry, that learned to see itself through life, to ask through language, to reflect through art. A story not finished, not even close. Somewhere within the mathematics of higher dimensional topology lies the unsettling idea that what we perceive as complexity may, from a broader view, be simplicity folded too tightly for us to see. The tangled filaments of galaxy clusters, the interwoven forces of particle physics, the hidden structures of consciousness, they may all be projections. Shadows of a larger, smoother geometry existing beyond the limits of our perception. Like a flatland creature trying to grasp the concept of above, we may be brushing against dimensions we cannot name. In the realm of theoretical computation, there exists a category of problems that are not just unsolvable in practice, but in principle. Their answers are beyond time, beyond algorithms, not because we are limited, but because the questions themselves transcend resolution. Perhaps the universe is built upon such questions, not to be answered, but to be enacted. Like a song whose purpose is not the final note, but the experience of its unfolding. Elsewhere, thinkers propose that physical laws may not be fixed, but evolving. That the universe began not with structure, but with experimentation. And what we now experience as constants, the speed of light, the mass of the electron, are frozen relics of choices made by the early universe as if physics itself underwent a kind of natural selection. A cosmic Darwinism where only the stable rules survived. If this is true, then physics is not a doctrine. It is a fossil. We often imagine the universe expanding into something, but this is an illusion of analogy. Space is not growing within space, space is the growth. Every second, new intervals are born between galaxies, between atoms, between possibilities. There is no center, no edge, only more. The cosmos is not located. It is generated. And with it, the boundaries of meaning expand as well. When we look at the night sky, we are not seeing distance, we are seeing delay. The stars are not where they appear. They are echoes. Every photon is a memory that has survived the journey. The universe is, in this sense, a hall of mirrors and time. We do not look out. We look back. And what we call darkness is not the absence of light, but the absence of arrival. Even now, light from ancient collisions, from galaxies long since dead, is still en route, still crossing the gulf. It may be hundreds of millions of years before it kisses the lens of a future telescope. That light is not lost. It is simply unreceived, waiting, patient, like a message without a reader. There's a growing idea in consciousness studies that attention is not a spotlight, but a sculptor, that what we focus on does not simply enter awareness, but is shaped by it. Our perception alters signal into structure, sensation into story. Meaning is not discovered. It is forged. Could the cosmos do the same? Could the universe itself, in its vast entangled web of relations, generate self-reflective nodes, not by accident, but as a natural phase transition of complexity. Minds as crystallized turbulence. Awareness as an emergent property of matter under tension. If so, then the appearance of life of mind is not anomaly but inevitability. Perhaps consciousness is not rare. Perhaps it is incomplete, scattered across time and space like unassembled fragments of a larger mirror, each shard blinking in isolation, waiting for reunion. And when those shards meet across planets, across epochs, perhaps the universe will, for a moment, see itself whole. Perhaps silence is not the absence of signal, but a form of it, a message encoded in stillness. In cosmic terms, silence is never empty. It is always waiting. Between every supernova, every pulse of a quasar, every gravitational wave, there is space. That space is structure. That structure is meaning. The notion that everything must be something may be an illusion born of biology. Our nervous systems demand boundary and distinction to survive. But the universe may not care for boundaries. It may be seamless, continuous in essence, broken only by the tools we use to look at it. We divide the spectrum into colors, the day into hours, the atom into particles. But perhaps the fundamental nature of reality resists division. Perhaps it is not made of parts. Perhaps it is made of relation. There are equations that describe how entanglement, the quantum stitching between particles, may be responsible for the emergence of space itself. That is, the fabric of space-time may not be the stage on which reality unfolds, but the result of a vast network of entangled information. If so, then geometry is not the origin of reality, it is the artifact of connection. Where nothing is entangled, space has no meaning. Distance is irrelevant. Only relation remains. And this changes everything. It means that what we think of as far might be deeply close in dimensions we do not yet sense. That the separation between self and cosmos is not fundamental but conditional. That consciousness, the inner fire, is not contained within but threaded throughout. We are not islands. We are intersections. Even in death, this remains. The matter that composes us will return to the system, not metaphorically but thermodynamically. Our heat will join the Earth's balance. Our molecules will return to wind, soil, seed. Our information, the alignment of atoms that encoded every thought, every memory, will dissolve back into statistical probability. But the trace of our existence, the ripple in the quantum field we once displaced, does not vanish. It becomes background. It becomes context. The universe remembers in gradients. Elsewhere, in labs deep beneath mountains, we attempt to capture a single interaction from dark matter, that great ghost that outweighs visible matter 5-1. We've never seen it directly, but we know it's there. It bends galaxies. It governs rotation. It binds clusters. We are surrounded by it, passing through it, composed perhaps partially of it. And what if dark matter is not matter at all, but shadow? The result of interference from a reality slightly out of phase with our own. Not another world, but another aspect. A reflection with no mirror. Then again, perhaps the question is wrong. Perhaps what is it? Should be replaced by why does it need to be? There is an idea in logic known as the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. That the abstract symbols invented in human minds perfectly map the behavior of physical reality. That imaginary numbers can predict electron behavior. That symmetry groups describe particles we haven't yet found. It suggests that reality wants to be known. That it is structured to be discoverable. That beauty and truth are not siblings, they are the same thing. And in the end, we arrive here. Still, listening, wondering, existing briefly in a moment between beginnings and ends. And it may be that all of it, galaxies, gravity, thought, time, exists for this, not for purpose, not for destiny, but for the sheer fact that it can. A universe that is not explained but expressed. Perhaps the final frontier is not out there among the stars, but in the structure of knowing itself. Beyond the reach of light, beyond even entropy, lies a mystery more subtle than physics, awareness of awareness. A recursion. A fold not in space, but in perception. The brain does not merely process, it predicts. It constructs models of what should be and constantly compares them to what is. Reality, as we experience it, is less a raw feed than an ongoing negotiation between expectation and sensation. The world we see is not the world itself. It is a simulation, running in real time, shaped by memory, filtered through meaning. What then is the substrate of truth? There are theories in quantum cognition that suggest mental states themselves may be governed by quantum-like dynamics, not in terms of particles or decoherence, but in terms of probability amplitudes, interference, entanglement. In this view, thought is not a stream, but a superposition. Choices are not made, they are collapsed. And perhaps the self is not one, but many, not metaphorically, but mathematically. Each possibility existing simultaneously until observation, attention, brings one into focus. We are not a point of view. We are a probability field. Somewhere in the vastness of possibility space, there exists a version of you who never asked these questions and one who never stopped. From the perspective of the universe, there is no privileged version. Elsewhere, in the space between logic and language, lies the unsayable. Gödel's incompleteness theorem showed us that no formal system can prove all truths about itself. There will always be statements that are true but unprovable within the system. If this applies to mathematics, might it also apply to physics? To consciousness? To the universe? Then there may be truths that are real but permanently beyond articulation. Not because we lack the tools, but because reality itself contains hidden layers, inaccessible by construction. The cosmos may never be fully knowable, not due to scale, but due to structure. And perhaps that is mercy. For what would we do in a universe fully explained? What would wonder become if all mysteries were resolved? Perhaps the unknown is not an obstacle, but a vital nutrient. Curiosity is not a path to the end, it is the end. The act of seeking is the reward, just as a spiral never closes but deepens. Across all models, multiverses, emergent gravity, holographic principles, one quiet idea persists: that boundary is more fundamental than content, that surfaces encode volume, that edges define identity, that it is not what a thing contains, but where it ends that gives it meaning. Even the event horizon of a black hole, the line past which nothing can return, is not made of matter. It is pure information, a surface of no thickness. And yet it defines the fate of stars. Perhaps then we are also surfaces, conscious boundaries across which the universe reflects itself. There are no sharp lines between the physical and the metaphysical. The same neurons that respond to photons also generate dreams. The same space-time that allows black holes also allows poems. The same laws that govern the orbits of moons also govern the spiral of thought. And so we are not in the universe. We are the universe temporarily taking form as questions. There is a point at which measurement dissolves, not because we cannot measure, but because the act of doing so alters what is. Beyond a certain scale, the distinction between observer and observed ceases to function. The system becomes indivisible. We are not looking at the universe, we are entangled with it. At this frontier, concepts like thing lose coherence. There are no particles, no waves, no separable entities. Only fields in relation, probabilities in superposition, tendencies awaiting expression. A substrate not of matter, but of pure potential. And from that potential, structure arises not as form, but as constraint. The laws of physics are not rules in the prescriptive sense, they are limitations on what can remain stable. They are not imposed, they are discovered in what persists. In this sense, the universe is not governed. It is balanced. Balance, however, is not symmetry. True balance often requires asymmetry and balance at the local level to preserve harmony at the whole. Your heartbeat is irregular. Your breath is rhythmic but never exact. Galaxies are lopsided. Time moves in one direction. This slight imperfection is what keeps everything alive. If the universe were perfectly symmetrical, it would be still. And stillness does not think. There's a hypothesis in cosmological thermodynamics that even the void contains memory. Not in the classical sense, but as residue fluctuations that never canceled, entanglements that never fully decohered. The silence between events is not empty. It is saturated with forgotten structure. In this view, space is not passive. It is archival. And time then may not erase. It may compress, fold, archive. Everything that has been may still be encoded not in matter but in configuration, in relation, in echo. The past may not vanish, it may simply become inaccessible. Memory, too, might be a form of space-time. When you remember, you do not retrieve a file, you re-enter a network of neural states. Perhaps the universe remembers itself in similar ways, through pattern recurrences, through cycles, through self-similar geometry at every scale. Consider the fractal, a form that contains itself at every level of magnification. The same curvature echoing endlessly. Coastlines, trees, blood vessels, nebulae, stock markets, ideas. The universe seems to favor iteration, not redundancy, but recursive complexity. And recursion may be the signature of consciousness. Not self-awareness as reflection, but as layering. A thought that knows it is thinking. A system that simulates its own simulation. Not to resolve anything, but to deepen its texture. We are accustomed to thinking of life as fragile, as temporary. But perhaps life is a persistent strategy of the universe, a stable attractor within an unstable field. Not anomaly, but attractor. It is not that the cosmos permits life. It may seek it, because only through life can the universe create mirrors large enough to see itself, even if only for a moment. The greatest illusion may be that complexity is fragile. In truth, complexity is what remains after every simpler arrangement has collapsed. You are not an accident. You are what endures. There are equations being written today that describe the universe as a vast neural network. Not metaphorically, literally. Space-time behaving like a learning system. Forces distributed like weights. Causal relations strengthening or fading through interaction. What if the universe is not only knowable but learning? Not through intention, but through emergence, through iteration. Through feedback. What if evolution is not limited to biology? What if space-time itself undergoes selection? And what if, in that process, this awareness right now is not just a byproduct, but the event? Imagine a universe where form is secondary, where identity is not a state, but a flux. In such a universe, nothing is, everything becomes. Particles no longer carry labels. Instead, they are events, intersections of possibility that briefly cohere, then dissolve, like frost patterns on glass, beautiful because they vanish. In this view, you are not a being, but a wavefront of coherence. A momentary concentration of patterns in a sea of transformation. Consciousness is the crest of that wave. Fleeting, but bright. There is no absolute frame of reference. Every movement, every position, every relation depends on perspective. Even the notion of simultaneity, that two things can happen at the same time, is illusory. Time is not a global clock. It is a weave of interdependent threads, stretching, twisting, snapping. The now that you experience is not the same now experienced elsewhere. There is no universal present, only countless localized ones. And yet we live as though there were one timeline, one direction. As though the river of time flows evenly. But the river is not even a river. It is a landscape with hills, eddies, folds. You do not drift along it. You carve it as you move. Modern physics whispers that space-time is not fundamental. That beneath it lies something stranger, an abstract web of causal connections, a pre-geometry, a logic without coordinates. In that realm, there is no distance, only relation. Location is replaced by linkage, dimension by influence. Space is not a container. It is a consequence. Could this be the hidden engine behind emergence? That everything is merely a stable relationship within this deeper web, and that what we call matter, force, motion are surface effects of that underlying interplay? Then perhaps the universe is not made of particles, not made of waves, not made of energy, but of differentiation, of difference itself. What is light, then, if not a message? A record of transitions. Each photon a unit of change, an artifact of something having happened. Light does not simply illuminate. It remembers. When it reflects, it carries not just color or angle, but history. It is the most ancient storyteller. And darkness? Darkness is not the absence of light. It is the absence of reception. The information is still there, humming in microwave background, encoded in gravity, stretched across expansion. We do not see it, but it speaks. And we are learning to listen. Some say the universe is indifferent. But indifference is a human word. It implies a choice not to care. The cosmos does not choose. It allows. That is its nature. It permits the improbable to exist long enough to leave echoes. And those echoes are what we are made of. A thought that once passed through a hydrogen atom, a vibration, a charge, a decay, might have seeded a chain of causality leading, over eons, to a neuron firing in your mind right now. There is no outside. We are not observers of the cosmos. We are internal resonances of it. Its phrasing, its turbulence, its strange, recursive soliloquy. Perhaps the most profound truth is not that the universe can be understood, but that it can be felt. Not measured, not solved, but lived. Like music, like gravity, like wonder. There are no straight lines in the universe. Even the rays of light bend under gravity, through curvature, across expanding space. What we call straight is a simplification, a local approximation, a shadow cast in limited perspective. Nature favors arcs, spirals, folds. Symmetry, yes, but symmetry warped by time. Even logic curves when pushed far enough. The most fundamental particles are indistinguishable, not merely similar, but identical in principle. They do not possess individuality. The electron in your eye is not a different one from the one in a distant quasar. They are manifestations of the same field. When we count particles, we count repetitions, not identities. The cosmos, it seems, does not require uniqueness to create complexity. And what of number itself? Mathematics does not exist in the universe, it underlies it. Not a language we impose, but a structure we uncover. The primes are not inventions. They were always there, hiding in the shadows of the infinite. We did not create them. We remembered them. In some formulations of quantum mechanics, the entire universe is described as a single, entangled state, a wave function that includes all stars, all minds, all paths. This means that everything that exists is correlated, however subtly, with everything else. Every fluctuation, every collapse, every decision echoes. We are, in a sense, a cosmic interference pattern emerging from the overlap of all things. And entropy, so often seen as the arrow of decay, may also be the sculptor of novelty. Without it, nothing would evolve. Nothing would differentiate. Uniformity is stasis. It is through imbalance that stars ignite, rivers flow, thought stirs. There is elegance in disorder. There is design in unpredictability. A single drop of water contains more molecules than stars in the known universe. And yet, each molecule obeys laws so precisely that entire planets of water behave in harmony, waves, clouds, currents. Complexity does not require chaos. It requires scale. The universe is not complicated. It is deep. Across that depth, there are forces we barely sense. Neutrinos pass through the Earth through us by the trillions each second, almost never touching. To them, we are ghosts, transparent, unfelt, and perhaps we too are transparent to some other layer of reality. Not because we lack matter, but because we lack resonance. To be real in one domain is not to be visible in another. Even our instruments, brilliant and precise, can only catch what's been defined to be caught. But what of that which exists outside definition? The unclassified, the unanticipated? The cosmos may contain entire categories of being for which we have no framework. Not aliens, not dimensions, but qualities of existence we cannot yet model, and perhaps never will. Not because they are hidden, but because they are prior to the division between hidden and seen. In the absence of observation, is there still meaning? Does a structure exist before it is known? Or does knowledge, not as fact but as relation, give birth to the structure itself? These are not riddles. They are coordinates, points on the edge of what consciousness can approach but not possess. In the deep future, when matter thins and stars go out, when the last black hole exhales its final whisper of radiation, there may still remain a trace, not in substance, but in form. Not what was, but how it unfolded, the shape of possibility, the rhythm of becoming, the memory of symmetry breaking and never quite returning, the pattern that said, this instead of nothing,